Aloha everyone, my name's Farron and welcome to the Wild Weed Walk. We're here today to go through my garden and showcase some plants that are common allies that are medicinal and edible. So thanks for joining me. First, we're going to talk about some different discussion points, going over types of medicine that we can make and how to encourage these plants into your everyday diet. Then we'll take a walk through the garden and look at some of these plants, talk about their nutrition info, how they were used traditionally, what we know of their modern uses, and what ailments they can help your body heal from. There's a few legalities to go over first. Of course, none of these statements have been approved by the FDA, and consulting an educated practitioner is always a good suggestion, especially if using pharmaceuticals. However, the internet has an abundant amount of information on how to forage, how to properly ID, how to use these wild plants in culinary and medicinal actions, and when not to use them. When doing your research, please make sure to always look for poisonous lookalikes or specific times of the season to not harvest a certain plant. When harvesting, make sure to stay away from contaminated areas like sides of roads and pesticide-ridden spots like common parks. Many herbs help to clean soil, and so they accumulate these toxins into their plant. I'm here with educational information only, and I cannot be held responsible for improper use or misinterpretation of this information. Always be cautious and make sure you know what plants you're putting into your body. With that being said, I have chosen herbs for this walk that generally have low levels of risk when learning to ID and learning to consume these wild beauties. So often, we look to isolated vitamins and supplements to get our nutrition, but eating a few wild, nutrient-dense plants straight from the earth, like Mother Gaia intended, is a great way to balance your body and bring nutrition to where it's needed most. This is rewarding and sustainable alternative to get your daily dose of goodness. Most plants that are wild contain far greater amounts of nutrition than those that are cultivated. Eating on the Wild Side is a great book talking about the differences of wild plants and our common human-influenced crops. Author Joe Robinson states that dandelion leaves have far greater the nutrition than spinach leaves, stating that there's 8 times more antioxidants, 2 times more the calcium, 3 times the vitamin A, and 5 times more vitamin K and E. So make sure to eat your wild weeds along with your spinach. These plants have been around far longer than our more directly human-influenced crops. Maintaining a high level of nutrients in the body supports the overall body function and full health. Let us support our body systems, especially our immune systems in these times, with whole, wild plant allies. When making an extraction, you can use a multitude of different types of liquid, or what is called a menstruum. This menstruum is what's going to extract the medicine out of the plant matter that you're using. The plant matter is also known as marc. So you have your marc and your menstruum. Some common menstruums include alcohol, apple cider vinegar, honey, oil, wine, and hot or cold water. Each one extracts slightly different properties from the plants and provide a different medicinal experience. A general rule of thumb when extracting is as follows: 1 part fresh plant matter to 2 parts menstruum, and 1 part dried plant matter to 5 parts menstruum. So what this means is if you have 1 part or 1 ounce of your fresh plant matter, then you will have 2 parts of your menstruum or your liquid. And same if it's a dry plant matter and you have 1 cup of dried plant matter, then you'll want to use 5 cups of your menstruum. And something to remember is that fresh plants contain water in them, and so when you're making an oil extraction, this contact with the water can cause your oil to go rancid, and so you'll want to make sure to periodically pour off the water that floats to the top during this extraction process. There are a million or even more ways to make medicines, and every herbalist has a slight different spark about how they do it. And my personal preference is to follow the moon cycles with starting your medicine on a new moon when the energy is low, and extracting it on the full moon when the energy has had time to pull and draw that medicine out of the plant. Others use different lengths of time, and I also do sometimes as well, but that's my preferred method. Shaking every day so that you make sure your menstruum is in full contact with your plant matter is a great way to help get as much medicine out of your plant as you can. A fun old-fashioned way is to bury it. So you can put it in a jar, make sure your lid is sealed really tight, and you bury it in the ground, and make sure to mark your spot really well, or you might not find your medicine. Tea is another really gentle and effective way to consume these plants as well. Bees are hanging out with me. There's a few different types of teas that we can make. There's a decoction, and so a decoction is where you simmer the herb for 20 minutes after you bring it to a boil, and then you let it steep for another 20 or so minutes. This is commonly used for plants that are hard, and so things like barks and medicinal mushrooms and seeds, and even sometimes berries and roots. Hard plant matter takes a little more to get that medicine out. And the most typical tea that we know of is when you heat water to slightly below boil, and you just pour it over your plant matter. You cover it and you let it steep for 15 to 20 minutes to get those full medicinal qualities out. If you want to do a lunar infusion, which is a fun idea, and a solar infusion, then what you do is you put your plant matter in water and you let it sit in a jar covered in the moon overnight, and there you go. There's a lunar infusion. If you want to do a solar infusion, 4 hours in the sun in the same manner is a great way. It warms it slightly and brings out really nice flavors. We can also do a cold infusion, just like the hot infusion, where you put your plant matter in the water and put it in the fridge overnight. And so these hot and these cold temperatures and the energy of the moon and the energy of the sun can help pull out different medicinal qualities of each plant. And they also provide just different experiences and ways to connect with each plant. So a reminder is that smaller leaves in the spring are typically going to be less bitter, and they're going to increase in bitterness as we move throughout the summer and into their flowering season. While flowers are generally best when they're in full bloom, which is typically late spring or summer, roots are best when they're harvested in fall, or when the energy from the plant moves downward into the ground to prepare it for overwintering. So a few great ways to start incorporating these foods into your everyday diet. You can add a small amount to your soups, your salads, your smoothies, your sauces, your juices, and even your cooked meals. They're great places to start. Make sure you can chop them finely, and you'll kind of mask their flavor and their bitterness a little bit, and you can, incorporate them into more dishes and not notice. Also, something to note is that everyone's body is slightly different, and so you'll want to start small, pick a few dandelion leaves and add that in. Don't go for a full bunch of the whole plant of dandelion. You may have some adverse reactions. So start gentle, be easy with yourself, and, be easy. So some other fun ways that we can incorporate these foods into our diet. You can add them to raw and unfiltered apple cider vinegar with a little bit of super good local honey, and you can make a really nutrient-dense and tasty tonic that you can take as a vitamin supplement. You can also add oil, lots of oil, and sea salt and lemon juice to the raw or the cooked plants, and that helps to decrease their bitterness. They also make a great addition to basil for pesto. Just like how you would make regular pesto, add in some basil and your herbs and some oil, salt, garlic's really nice, lemon juice is nice, vinegar can be good, and voila, you have a tasty pesto that you can spread all over your common everyday foods and add to your meals and your soups and your sauces and incorporate these foods into your diet. A traditional way that many cultures would use them is they'd make what's called a horta. A horta is when you steam and drain off the water of wild plants. You can mix them in with other, more common greens like kale and chard and spinach and these things. But they would use just the wild plants and they would marinate them for overnight sometimes or even just a few hours in a tasty dressing of oils and vinegars and spices, and then they would consume 2 to 3 times a day, a quarter to a half of a cup in each increment, and they would take this as a general tonic and for full body support. Another way, you can dry them so that you have them for use in the off season, and you can also grind them down once they're dried to make fun spices and flavorings that you can use throughout your cooking. So today we're going to focus on 5 main plants that are abundant in many yards and gardens: dandelion, yellow dock, wild mallow, thistles, and purple dead nettle, as well as a couple trees and bushes that are popular on the west coast: madrone and manzanita. They're all great for beginners as they don't have poisonous lookalikes and they're easy to identify. And just a reminder, again, that the young spring leaves are going to be much tastier and less bitter. And so let's walk together and see what we can find. So we're going to move around the garden a little bit. It might be a little bumpy, so bear with me, but here we go. So, if you can see these bright yellow flowers, we have some dandelion. Get to a better description. And so this leaf, if you can see, is nice and pointy, has these lobes. There's only one flower per stalk, and so that's what differentiates it from its lookalike, which is cat's ear. Cat's ear doesn't have any toxicity and actually has similar properties to dandelion. Here's a few more in the sun we'll go check out, and even a cat's ear that looks similar. So here we are again. Dandelion plant, nice luscious plant, and then this is the cat's ear, and so it's more lobed, right? Not so sharp there, and it's furry, so kind of like what you expect a cat's ear to be like. But so we're going to talk a little bit about dandelion right now. You can see the bees really enjoy it. So all parts of the dandelion are used, except once the flower goes to seed. It's not quite palatable. That furry fluffiness is not so enjoyable. But the flowers are great to add into your salads, into really anything. They make a beautiful addition and they're really medicinal. So yeah, it's commonly used as a digestive bitter, stimulating hydrochloric acid and digestive juices. Plus it provides deep liver support to help break down your food and increase assimilation. This helps to increase absorption and decrease the waste. It's also a diuretic, meaning it tones and replenishes the kidneys. It is blood cleansing. It clears the stagnation and helps move the lymph. It's a gentle laxative, tonifying to all systems, supportive for deep-seated infections, provides relief from allergies, and if taken before your moontime can provide cramp prevention. It's helpful for jaundice, skin eruptions, diabetes, the reduction of fevers, IBS, female organ support, skin eruptions, and it provides kidney, spleen, and pancreas support, as well as increasing the appetite, and provides help in scenarios of sluggishness or elimination problems. The extraction of the root can help to lower cholesterol as well as blood pressure, while regulating blood glucose and decreasing inflammation. The leaves and the flowers are often infused in apple cider vinegar for a nice topical skin toner, or infused in oil for sore muscles or to use for cracked skin. It's high in lots of vitamins and minerals, especially potassium and calcium, magnesium, iron, beta-carotene, copper, vitamin A, B, C, and D. It increases the amount of natural and readily available sodium to help purify and eliminate acids in the blood. It also helps to rid the liver of excess fat storage, which is a common cause of sluggishness. As traditionally, it was used topically as a poultice for stomach aches, meaning the natives would chew it up and rub it on their tummies and leave it there to help with their stomach aches. It's used as a coffee substitute by providing natural energy boost from supporting the liver. They would roast the roots, and it provides a great flavor that's quite similar to coffee. The fresh root is often pickled and cooked when it's tender for food, and the sap is used for burns, stings, calluses, warts, and acne from the fresh root. You can even make a dandy flower wine. So these beautiful flowers, you can find some information on the internet about how to turn them with just a little sweetener into a wonderful herbal tonifying wine. It's also a great weather guide, which is a fun tip. When the flowers close during the day, you can expect rain to come. So, we'll move on from this dandelion and go find us our next plant. Here we have yellow dock. It has these nice red centers, big beautiful leaves. It's quite bitter, can be steamed, and you can use these leaves as great wrappers, but a reminder that it's pretty bitter. So there is another plant called curly dock. It has similar properties and is not poisonous. So if you see a plant that looks like this but has a little more curl to the outside of the leaves and not so red in the center, that's curly dock. Similar medicine. So we can use the leaf, the root, the flower, and the seed from this plant. It's often used as a skin herb, topically and internally for eczema, acne, herpes outbreaks, and to inhibit discharge. It's used as a digestive bitter as well, stimulating that hydrochloric acid production and all those yummy digestive juices to help support the liver and breakdown of our food. It's useful for fatigue, headaches, anemia, constipation, PMS, men's hormone balancing, blood cleansing, prevention of scurvy, and it's tonifying to all of our systems. It's high in calcium, magnesium, vitamin C, and extremely high in iron, which is very helpful during pregnancy. It helps increase the availability of this iron into the body through the blood. It is also high in oxalic acid content, much like chard and spinach, so make sure to take periodic breaks, or cooking can help to reduce this content. Another fun thing in the garden is it's a great mulch plant. It pulls and accumulates the minerals from deep in the soil and brings them upwards, making them more accessible to the plants around them and having them stored in the leaves so when they are pulled off, they break back down into the soil for the plants to use. Traditionally, the seeds were cooked for something like a porridge. It makes a beautiful tall flowering stalk that looks similar to amaranth and makes these nice seeds that are easy to harvest and super tasty if you cook them into a porridge. And they would also sprout the seeds to use as sprouts and as microgreens to increase the availability of these nutrients into their diets. They would also chew this plant up to make a poultice, and they would rub it on their sore throats and leave like a nice pack on their throats to pull out the soreness, and on their muscles and their bones for the creaky arthritis and common issues. They would drink the fresh root juice for diarrhea, and they would powder the dry root to help stop bleeding. They believed that you could take this plant as a spring tonic to heal whatever ails you. So this is the wonderful yellow dock. I often use only small leaves and only a small amount in each thing I use. It is far more bitter than dandelion, but it still provides lots of medicinal nutrients. So let's move on to the next plant and see what we can find. We have some nice artichokes here. About to make artichokes, a little raspberry action. Some raspberries in the garden. And here we have a wild mallow. It even has a nice little flower there for you to see. Beautiful plant, really nice and succulent. Makes these great heart-shaped leaves, really soft. Also a great toilet paper when it gets large during these times, as that seems to be a problem. So some things about this plant. You can use the leaf, the root, the flower, and the seed as well. There is a plant that looks similar. It is called hollyhock, but it is not toxic, and it has similar medicinal qualities as well. This plant, this lusciousness is demulcent, and so that means it's mucilaginous. And so a mucilaginous plant helps to heal any tract in your body, like your respiratory tract, your digestive tract, your urinary tract, any membrane in your body, really. It can help to soothe and decrease inflammation. So it's mildly laxative. It helps to increase urine flow without depleting potassium levels, which is common of some diuretics. It is anti-inflammatory. It's helpful for sensitive skin, definitely for gut irritation and urinary tract support, any recovery from UTIs or kidney stones, recovery from inflammatory coughs, and just to heal your respiratory system in general. It's used to soften excess sticky mucus and expel the phlegm from your lungs or your sinuses. Helpful in the restoration of damaged skin tissue with ulcers, IBS, protects your immune system, helpful for sleep and asthma and pain and gum infections. You can chew on the root and you can chew on the leaves to help with infections of the mouth. It is anti-aging, and it's even said to help with prostate cancer. A topical poultice, again where you chew the plant up, is used for swelling of muscles, wounds or sores, as well as insect bites, and helps to draw out these toxins from these different bites. The seeds are even said to be an aphrodisiac. Traditionally, the natives would have children chew on the roots for teething. They would boil the roots and beat them to make something kind of like meringue. That mucilaginous quality gives it that ability to turn into meringue. It thickens stews and thickened the cooked dishes that they would make, and they would also make mallow chips, something like what we know of kale chips with this plant. It increases the alkalinity in the body. It is really high in protein and fiber and carbs, copper and calcium, magnesium, selenium, zinc, antioxidants, pectin, fatty acids, potassium, and vitamin A, B, C, and E. And the young leaves, these little small ones, are even said to be really extra potent in vitamin A. And so we're most common with marshmallow root, which is what we used to make marshmallows from. They're not made from that really anymore, but that was what sparked the idea of what we know of as marshmallows. And this plant is not quite that, but it has very similar properties. It's more commonly found, and it's a beautiful edible beauty in our gardens. So now we will go find some other plants. Again, another artichoke. It's making a nice artichoke. Here is some lemon balm. We won't talk too much about it, but it is wonderful for pain and sadness and depression, and it's really just an uplifting, bright, and cheery plant, really healing to the mind and the nervous system and cooling, and children really love it, and it makes a great pesto. So in this box there's a few other plants. We can go ahead and talk about the thistle. This is one type of thistle. There's so many types of thistle. We might find a few more on our walk, but this one is particularly nice. It's not what we think of. It's not so spiny. It's soft and succulent. and really makes a better edible than a lot of the other ones. Although they are all edible, some are just a bit more tedious to harvest and to use as others. So this thistle has a lot of different properties, and they can be found in the leaf, in the flower, and the seed. They make these flowers similar to what we know of as dandelion, where you can blow on them and make a wish and they fly away. So remember that, there's lots of varieties: blessed thistle, holy thistle, milk thistle, traditional thistle, and none of them are toxic, and they all have similar properties, some just being stronger than others. They're used to induce sweating, help expel toxins, reduce fevers, purify and circulate the blood, and that helps strengthen the heart. They're helpful for womanhood transitions. They encourage mother's milk flow. They help in depression that is held in the liver. They provide lung, kidney, and liver support. And they're soothing to the brain and helpful with memory as well as insanity. It is also a digestive bitter, which helps stimulate the digestive juices as well as the liver and helps to tonify all of the body systems. It's really high in potassium, manganese, calcium, and vitamin A. The seed is really high in oil. Milk thistle, a specific one, has been used to save lives from ingestion of heavy toxins like the death cap mushroom. All of the thistles, you can boil their flower heads and eat them like artichokes, but again, this is very tedious. You can also cut the spines off and eat like spinach. Again, very tedious, but it is an emergency food in a time of need. Some people will just use the midribs of the leaf, this right here. They'll cut the leaf off, and they'll just use this part, and they will use them raw or cooked for an easier solution. The flowering stalks, this right here, can be peeled and cooked for a tasty treat. The natives would traditionally use them for neuralgia, to reduce hemorrhoids, complications of overeating, to repair the liver from chemical toxins, and to prevent future damage to the liver. They also use it as a steam inhalation for rheumatism and other pain-related disorders, and they believed in drinking a very strong tea of it every day before bed to help prevent disease. So that's one type of thistle. We will keep going and see what else we find. This is red clover, different types of clover, pink clover, crimson clover, and it's not quite as enjoyable to eat the leaf. You can chew on it and get the juice from it. The flowers you can pull out and taste that, kind of like a honeysuckle. Here's another smaller thistle. Red clover has a lot of nutrients in it. All types of clover do. More lemon balm. And here we have purple dead nettle. So this is a member of the mint family. It has a square stalk, and the leaves are slightly fuzzy. That's kind of common to all the mint families. So we most often use the leaf and the flower. Like you see here, these flowers and the leaves. They are astringent, which means they inhibit discharge. They are diuretic. Let's see some better pictures on here. This one. They're diuretic. They're purgative to help your body eliminate what's no longer serving you. They're anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and antifungal. They provide kidney support, relief for seasonal allergies, helpful with gout and sciatica and joint pain, and they also encourage sweating and are a mild laxative. Topically, it's used for bruises, and the leaves are chewed into a poultice for wounds and cuts and to stop bleeding or to draw out splinters. Super helpful. It's very high in vitamin A and C, and iron, and quercetin, and fiber. It has really oil-rich seeds, so these tops are great to just throw into your soups and enjoy the seeds and the flowers and the leaves all together. It's also great for chicken feed and a friend to the bees. The natives would use it traditionally like spinach and as a medicine to help drive away melancholy. It's a bright and cheery plant and brings joy to the heart. They would use it as a natural dye as well. We'll keep moving around the garden. So we'll keep going. Just a few more things to talk about here. A nice box of parsley. It's been reseeding itself, and more clover and beautiful kiwi bush. Got some roots growing over there. Keep headed up and up. Can't walk up the hill. And here's the curly dock. It's similar to the yellow dock. You can see a lot of similarities. This one is beginning to flower, so it looks a little different. Same here, just more curly. And this is when you would start to see the seeds developing. And nice plant, similar to the yellow dock. So the next few plants we're going to talk about are actually trees and bushes. So this one here is manzanita. It's also known as little apple. You can see these little berries. They look kind of like little apples. It has this nice red branching in here. Beautiful hardwood, really great for carving and for fire. There's also another plant that's similar called Uva ursi. It looks very, very similar, but it grows on the ground, more like a ground cover. It's called kinnikinick. Each of these plants hold similar qualities with their own spark. Madrone, which we'll go over next, is the next stage, the taller. So there's the Uva ursi that grows on the ground. Then there's the manzanita, which takes over the mid-layer. And then there's the madrone tree, which takes over the forest canopy. So the leaves of this manzanita are used to be infused into a tea for colds and diarrhea, while the berries and the leaves are helpful for bronchitis, kidney support, female disorders, and what's known as dropsy. They're high in vitamin C and contain a lot of antioxidants, especially in the berries, ground for spicing to be used in the off-season. Traditionally, the leaves were chewed for a topical poultice to help sores and headaches, or for internal cramps or stomach aches. It can be boiled, the leaves, for a natural body wash, as well as a natural dye that doesn't require a mordant. An infusion of the leaves provide relief from poison oak, shingles, and other rashes if you use them topically. The leaves can also be dried and smoked for good luck, or as a tobacco substitute. So this is manzanita, or little apple. It's now in its fruiting stage, and these fruits have a slight stickiness to them, and you can see the new leaves forming there too, also slightly sticky. Here we have our strawberry patch that we just started this year, and some little peas are growing, and this is what we call occultation method. So we cover the soil with a thick, dark material. This is some reused plastic that we are upcycling, and it helps to warm the soil and kill off any weeds that we maybe don't want in our direct garden beds. And so now we've reached a madrone tree, very big, tall, mighty tree. You'll notice up here in the canopy there's these orange trees, and they have like bark that kind of looks like it's peeling off, similar to what a eucalyptus tree does. It shows this magnificent orange color here when the bark peels off. So madrone is really supportive of heat tolerance. It helps to balance upset stomachs and increase appetites. The bark and the leaves are used for colds and TB, stomach disorders, diarrhea, and even as a postpartum contraceptive. They have these nice big leaves and they're about to start flowering. The leaves are typically used for topical as a wound and burn treatment, but also used internally as a tea for stomach aches, ulcers, colds, and joint inflammation. The bark is used for sore throats, the washing of wounds, and diabetes. And the bark will naturally fall off, and it's great. You can go collect it after a storm on the ground, and then you won't harm the tree by collecting its bark. Traditionally, the berries are dried and ground into a powder that they use for spicing, and they also will dry the berries and decorate with them and adorn themselves and their houses for protection. The berries can be cooked, eaten fresh, or smashed into a cider-like drink. They're incredibly useful as fish bait, especially for steelhead trout. The leaves can be chewed as well, like manzanita, for sore throat or for cramps. And the bark is also used as a natural dye and for making clothes. It's also a good wood for carving, as well as making charcoal. It is high in vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin P, and antioxidants. The semi-dried berries are the sweetest. That is a madrone tree. So, thank you so much. Glad we were able to walk around the garden and you were able to see some things. This video will be available until Tuesday, and if you want to check it out any other time, let me know. Send me an email. I will send it to you directly. I can also answer any questions in the chat booth, or if you want to send me an email, I can answer them there. You can find me on Facebook, Ferryn Collett, FerrynCollett, and you can check out my collaborative vendor booth. I'm part of the project called Teehee, and we have some already blended organic epic herbal medicines that can help you nourish and heal. And you can also message me directly about my CBD medicines and my colloidal silver creations. And yeah, I'm a part of Emerald Sisters Collective. Thank you so much for coming and joining us here. And to help me with my journey, please give me an email, give me a shout, and also you can help me spread my awareness and donate to me through Venmo and PayPal. I'll post the links, but my Venmo is FerrynFae, FerrynFae, and my PayPal is paypal.me/FerrynCollett. So thanks a bunch for joining me, and yeah, really, really grateful that y'all came, and hope you had a nice time walking through the garden. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.